Welcome to Muffin Talk.
Kia ora and welcome to Muffin Talk. This program is brought to you by the initiative Titipounamu, Study and Joy. On the 15th of August, we celebrate the feast of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Bishop Jean-Baptiste Pompallier, the first bishop of this country, chose the 15th of August as the patronal feast for the Catholic people in New Zealand. Let's hear Father Kevin Waldie on this topic.
Well, I think when you're talking about Bishop Pompallier and the history of coming to this land, you have to realize that he began his priestly training and then was ordained in the Diocese of Lyon in France, the southeast of France. And that's also where Father Jean-Claude Collin, the founder of the Marist Fathers, and his associates of the time, who were the initial members of the society and had the idea to form this new body of preachers of the word, as it were, that they knew each other, and because the inspiration for the Marist Fathers was that of giving birth to the word as Mary did, in a sense, going out to the world, bringing mercy and peace to the peoples around, especially in France at the time. So in 1836 then, eventually we, the Society of Mary, were approved by Rome. And of course, Bishop Pompallier, having imbibed, as it were, the Marist spirit and got to know things like that, he was very familiar with things Marian. And out of that came the expedition to the South Pacific, and in particular to New Zealand. And because of that, he then, on return trip to Rome, was gifted with an icon of Mary, now called the Pompallier Madonna, and it was a special icon going back a number of centuries, in actual fact. But it's an icon that really captures Mary assumed into heaven and sitting on the throne by her son. And so that icon was brought to New Zealand in those very early days. So in the 1840s, in fact, it was given by Pope Pius IX, and then Pompallier brought it to New Zealand, and it became sort of the emblem, if you like, of planting the Catholic faith in this land. And so gradually, over time, under the auspices and help and prayer of the Blessed Virgin Mary, Mother of God, this land and its spiritual care took off under Pompallier, and he then used the Marist Fathers and our own brothers to help that mission. And so we would evangelize the nation, as it were, by trekking up and down the country. And I think fundamentally, therefore, there was this Marian spirit that he was very much used to from back in France, and then became part of a spirit of commitment to spreading the faith, but under the care and protection of the Blessed Virgin Mary. So
I never connected the Pompallier Madonna to the Assumption of Mary.
Yes, because the thing is that once you look at the Blessed Virgin, and we say Blessed Virgin, you know, the whole thing, we start to realize that everything that we're going to say about Mary is connected to her motherhood, the motherhood of the Son of God. And therefore that puts her in a very special, blessed situation. And the logic is then, once you realize that she bore the Son of God to become a human being like us, then you have her in a special place, don't you? You have to then logically move on to declare certain things about her state. And so gradually then the Church comes to recognize her special place and it gives her various titles. And I think we know lots of those titles, Queen of Heaven or whatever. But this one in particular is Mary assumed body and soul into heaven, because she was, as the scriptural texts would have it, the Ark of the Covenant. She bore the Son within her womb, and therefore she's something quite special, quite extraordinary, someone blessed by God in the most fantastic way, if you like, and that then has great significance for a nation, I think, like New Zealand, because what she does is she represents ordinary humankind, but then she is the one who's cooperated with God's plan. And she then fulfills that plan with God's grace, and she cooperates, and then her Son looks after her as well, so that when she comes to the point of death, what are you going to do? You've got to, in a sense, preserve the sacred vessel that bore the Son of God. And so therefore there grows up a tradition of understanding the precious nature of Mary and assuming her body and soul into heaven. So she's not doing it herself. It's not a resurrection. It's an assumption. That is, she's taken up by the Godhead into the heavenly realm. And so therefore you get other things too, that once she's assumed body and soul into heaven, then she becomes the Queen of Heaven, doesn't she? And
yes.
There are lots of things that just naturally flow and are very much part of the Catholic tradition. And I think as Marist fathers, we see ourselves not so much as Mary, but as people who are given the Word, we are trained for the Word, and then we go out to the world and we give birth to that Word in the midst of the people of God. And I think that's a lovely thing to remember, and we're always inspired, therefore, by the life and the Assumption of Mary.
So let's celebrate then the Assumption of Mary. This is coming up. Thank you very much, Father Kevin, for all these explanations. I think that it's important that every now and then we talk about what it really means, because it's if we are at church and we listen to the readings, now we will listen to it and from a different angle with a different knowledge. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you, Beata, and let's rejoice in the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary.
Yes, thank you.
Out there, heroic peace is calling. In the bonds of love we meet. For the world a new day dawning and shining.